Yay. All right. So for this study, this is the second part. I hope we can get through all of it of Sirach chapter 7. I hope you guys really, I hope you read through it beforehand and have something to bring because I don't want to be the only one talking because I have so much to say today. I mean, not so much to say. I just really read through it. And the reason why I think I got so much out of it is because I was really avoiding it. This part has like some sections in it that are probably harder for me to come into as like a I don't want to be in a teaching position with this because it's talking about women and I mean, there's just things. And so I am going to, what I will preface this is I really just had to accept that I am going to interpret and share my own personal interpretations and how the Ruach helps me to break down verses the same way with all the verses, no matter how it makes me feel. I'm not going to like sugarcoat things or change things or try to like not make it awkward. I don't really know. But there's some tough stuff. So I'm going to do the best that I can to just share my thoughts. And then I would love to hear your thoughts. I think today we are also going to do it verse by verse or verse by verse for a lot of it. And then there's like a couple small sections where like there's a few verses that are all related that we'll read together. So can people wave if they're willing to be in the rotation of read? Oh, actually, you know what? I want to do this a little bit differently. That's what I wanted to do. Sorry, guys. I wanted to do this a little bit differently. I want to, if you have some, okay. How many people read this ahead of time? That's a good question to start with. How many people have actually read this ahead of time and have things about this to discuss? So me and Haley, are we it?
I
You guys,
this time.
what did you say?
I said I actually prepared this time.
Hey, you guys, I'm gonna start having to like double check with you guys. Are you doing your reading ahead of time? Because it helps us. All right. Well then never mind. I was gonna say, Haley, it's just gonna go back and forth. I wanted to, whoever has something about a verse, I wanted to give them the chance to read it and then speak first, but it's just gonna be me and Haley, so I guess we're not doing that. I don't know how to do this except line by line. All right, wave your hand if you're willing to read. All right, me, Jackie, Haley, Tina, Jess, wonderful. All right, my men, none of you guys. I'm taking note. Oh, Bobby, okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah, the notes that I have are on verses 10, 11. Maybe I could shortly say something on 23, 26. It's not really in much of its spiritual insight, just
Okay.
and then 31.
Okay.
Mm.
Um, well, I guess let's go line by line. And if you have anything, why don't you start? Because I have a lot. And yeah.
Does
All right.
somebody want to pray first?
Yeah. I was just say, let's somebody want to pray us in, or I'll pray us in if one of you guys want to pray us out. You want to do that sort of deal, or I can pray us out. Tina, are you going to pray us in? Yes. Thank you, Tina.
Abba Yahuwah, bless your holy name, Abba, your Kodash name. I want to thank you for bringing us all together, for allowing us to be able to connect thousands and thousands of miles away from each other. Different continents, different cities, different towns, different villages, everything that you bring together, Abba, that you allow is blessed by you, and we thank you for it. We thank you for this study. We thank you for the continued study of your book of Sirach, of Ecclesiasticus, and we thank you for the wisdom and the insight that you give us today on this book. Abba, we ask that you remind us that everything we see in this book comes through the Ruach to us, and anything that we've already studied out or not, as the case may be. We trust that you will show us for our benefit today. We thank you that we're progressing through this book and that we were doing it in your timing, Abba, and by your perfect will. We thank you for our fellowship today, and we thank you for your peace today, Abba, your perfect shalom today. For those of us celebrating Shabbat today, we ask that you help us do it well and to honor you. And for those of us that aren't, we still ask for that shalom that surpasses all understanding over us today, all of us, whether we are in this call or just part of the group as a whole. And we thank you for that shalom, Abba. We thank you for all your blessings today and always. In Yahusha's name, amen.
Amen. I'm so glad you prayed us in. All right, that was awesome. When you were saying shalom, I just like felt the shalom. So wonderful. All right. I guess let's go line by line. I'm going to do a rotation of all of us, I guess, based on the order of which you are on my screen. So Haley will do first. Haley, Jackie, Jess, and Tina. And me. Okay, so I guess I'll be in there somewhere.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to come out of the reading. I don't know what's going on. My tablet won't turn on.
Oh no. Oh, that's okay.
That's great. So,
That's
get me out
okay.
of the room.
I'm just glad you're here. That's all right. All right. All right, so
Don't
line
forget,
by line.
don't
Yeah,
forget Bobby will read.
oh yeah, Bobby. Bobby is taking Jess's spot. Actually, you know what, Bobby? You're at the top of my page, so you're going first. All right, so it's Bobby, Haley, Jackie, Tina, and me. All right. Yeah, I guess we'll just go verse by verse and yeah, Bobby, then Haley, Jackie, then Tina, then me, and we'll just pause after each one. So, all right. Bobby, go ahead. Verse 10.
Verse 10, okay. Do not be faint-hearted when you make your prayer, and do not neglect to give in kindness.
Anybody have anything for that?
What did your version said? Oh, good tidings. That's what you said, right?
My version said faint-hearted.
Right. At the end. Okay, it's okay.
Oh, it says, neglect to give in kindness. I'm using the Yah scriptures.
Oh, to give in kindness. Okay. Mine says giving alms.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm sorry. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, please.
What I got out of it when I first read that, obviously, like we must believe, right? We have to have faith, that the Father hears us and is going to answer us, like regardless of the answer. But also in turn, you have to be willing to give. And well, first I looked up give alms, and what I read about that, it was that it meant like giving to charity or something along those lines. But as I sat with that and thought about it, it's like it's not just about giving physically, it's about willing to give like yourself, and that could be like love, patience, kindness, it could be prayer, or your time. Like you have to be willing to like pour into people. It's like if you're wanting to, you're coming before the Father and asking for something, you got to be willing to give, I guess, in return too, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got out of that one.
Yeah. And thank you for that because I normally think along those lines and I didn't think along those lines in that time. So you brought a new understanding. Tina.
Similar to Haley, particularly around the arms thing, but the first part, verse 10 about not being faint-hearted. One thing I've kind of seen recently, and it was like a bit of a nudge, was not praying from a stance of like begging, but praying from a stance of it's already happened, remembering that Yah knows what's ahead, that He puts the desires of our hearts and the prayers that we do, and also that if we're praying for someone, family member or whatever it is, that it's going to happen. You know, Yah's faithful to, like you said, to listen to our prayers, Haley, but also to answer them. So praying in the stance that it's already given, rather than like, please, Abba, kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that helps as well. Like, I know in my own perspective, it helps. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my train of thought. Looking at the birds outside. Never mind. Continue. If the point is important enough, the Father will remind me. Yeah, Jer.
Yeah, what came to me, it's generally speaking about why we were asked to pray, and oftentimes and repeatedly asked. And it just struck me clearly that we don't pray because Yahweh needs us to pray. He doesn't need it. He knows everything. So when we have an active prayer life, it's actually for our betterment. It's for us to be engaging in the conversation. It's not like we're giving him anything that he lacks. So when we exercise prayer and have an active prayer life, it's for our own memory, our own reconstituting our thoughts and our priorities, because we were built that way. We remember the things that we speak about and we impress in prayer and that we're concerned about. So if we don't ever pray about something, then we're not concerned about it. So really, prayer it's just like the Sabbath. The Sabbath wasn't created for Yahweh; it was created for man. And prayer, in the same way, is not created for him. It's created for us, and we're asked to do it for our betterment. Because when you're omniscient and omnipotent and everything else that Yah is, it's obviously we're not filling a need that he has. Okay, so it's definitely for our betterment and our growth and our everything. So this it's just what came to me when we were talking about praying and why we do it and why we're always asked to do it and how we're asked to do it. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And what I was going to say finally came to mind. I was reminded of something. So Haley and I just started yesterday discussing the book of Nazarene. And so something that stood out to me in the chapter that we were studying yesterday, chapter 3, it's this understanding that Yah heals because he can see what's best for us. And there are times when the answer might be no to what we're asking for, like specifically like physical healing or success with money or whatever it is. But that if we are wanting something that we think is good for us, like for example, the physical healing, but the Most High can tell that it would be a deficit to our spiritual progression or it would weaken us in our spirit, he's not going to bring whatever success or whatever provision or whatever healing, whatever it is in the physical reality. So he's not going to strengthen you physically in this physical reality if it weakens you in your spirit, because he knows that your eternal being is worth so much more than your physical comfort, and he knows what's best. And so going back to what Tina was talking about of being faint-hearted and being able to just pray because you know it's already happened, a lot of that skill comes from being able to take on the perspective and understand that Yah, when he hears your prayers and sees your prayers, he's going to do what is absolutely best for your spiritual condition every time. And if you ask for healing and that's what's best for you, it will happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's because that's what's literally best for the health of your spiritual being and all the different things. And so, like, and also being in tune, like to the Ruach and understanding the things of his heart. Like, so you begin to pray from like a higher perspective, and it's no longer asking for things of whether or not. It's sort of like the Father's spoken promises. You see the promises spoken over you, and you just begin to kind of declare them and know that the Father's done already what is best for you. He's already refined you to your perfect completion in the heavens. Every day has already been written. So anyway, that kind of was ramble, but that was the point that I was wanting to make, and I hope that makes sense. Somebody else had their hand up. Yeah, Haley.
It was me. I put it
Okay.
back down. I'm glad that you mentioned that scripture, because I was thinking about that too. I was reading and I was like, I didn't write down where the scripture was. But anyways, I was going to say that I mean, context definitely could matter. Like the context of your prayer could matter, but like when I looked up faint-hearted, the definition was like lack of courage, or so I would think that like part of it, or depending on the context of your prayers, is like standing in that authority that we have, like especially in like intercession prayers. Like we need to step into that authority and not be like, so shrink back, like we're beggars type of prayer. Like we have the authority and we can step into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to point out, I mean, granted, we had a couple minutes of like messy attempts at worship and some chatting, but like we are literally on the first verse and it's almost 30 minutes into the hour, which we're on a great roll. Tina, yeah.
Just to go back to something Jer was saying about prayer being for our benefit, I totally agree. The only thing that did occur to me was the connection in those two sentences, because of what Haley had said earlier about giving alms not just being like physical money or whatever it might be, it is prayer. And Jer, what you were saying about, prayer helps us. I think what everybody just said, sort of, it all tied together in my head. Being an intercessor, praying for those people that you love, that you want, hopefully. And I know Abba doesn't want anyone, even the wicked, to perish. So that's the scripture that I stand on when I'm praying for somebody and I'm intercessing for them. But it's also about building our own faith in Him. So as we see those prayers come true, as He answers our prayers in whatever way He does, it brings that extra faith to us. So like I've sometimes written down what I've prayed for like months ago and then seen it starting to manifest. And that just keeps the hope going, and I keep looking back on those things that have come true, and it just gives us extra reason, especially with the times that are coming, to keep that prayer going. So
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have a prayer journal? I used to keep one like regularly. And it's something actually the last 2 nights, like it has been months since I kept a regular prayer journal, just not having the time or whatever. But I've felt sort of led and convicted back into it because it just, for me, it helps me keeps things organized, keeps my mind focused, but it also allows me to go back and reflect on what the Father has done. And I can literally see the journey of like my relationship with the Father and what I'm going through. And you get to go back and revisit. So, Tina, I'm guessing you must have a prayer journal, or you must keep
like you, it's been a while, but I had I wouldn't, yeah. So sometimes I write down the actual prayer that I'm thinking, that I've prayed and what I've asked for. There was a period for me last year where I had absolutely no money coming in, so it was like prayer for bills to be covered, finances to be helped in some way, not necessarily for me to be rich in any way, but just to pay bills. That was all it was. And when I look back now, every single month without fail, I didn't miss a bill. And there's also things that He's done in my life in terms of my own recovery, in terms of family, in terms of things that I've been able to achieve that I know I could never have done without Him. So I may not have written them down as I prayed them, but I've written like little sentences of the things that I know He's achieved in me. And yeah, it's amazing when you go back and look at it, but I need to do it more. You're right. I've lost track.
I would love to get like this, like I don't know, like a sign-up sheet of accountability of people who want to get into the regular prayer journaling and keep each other accountable and we can chit chat. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that. I am somebody who thrives with accountability. I love accountability. So if anybody else wants to help me with accountability for prayer journaling, I would love that. Yeah, Haley.
I mean, I do have a prayer journal and I'm the same way. I go through times where I'm like constantly writing in it and then I'll go through times where I kind of forget about it. But I think more so when I'm like desperately seeking Father for something, that's when I use it the most. When I'm praying like deeply for others or whatever the case. But yeah, I really enjoy writing my prayers because it helps me stay more focused in my thoughts. It's less mind wandering. Um, I get that ADD brain where I'll be praying like and the next thing you know I'm thinking about something else. I was like, I'm not sorry, Father. But
Yes, yeah.
when I write, I'm much more focused.
Yeah, same, exactly. Yeah, Jer.
What came to me was it's, it's something we've thought about before, but it seems that we engage more with the Father when things are not going well.
Hmm.
And so, like when everything's fine and dandy, we're just so busy enjoying life, so to speak. But boy, when we are hard pressed and the wolf's at the door, and that really nurtures a relationship with the Father. It's just like, if you have children and stuff and you never hear from them unless they're having a problem. And then
Hmm.
they're calling you and they want to talk with you. They want to engage with you. And we do the same thing with Yah, I think. I mean, I know I do. It's probably a common thing that so maybe sometimes we get afflicted a bit just so that we knock on his door a little more often. Who knows, right? So
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking on that perspective, it's like, well, then praise Yah for all of all of those hardships that caused me to run to him because yeah, absolutely. All right, we are literally 30 minutes into the hour and we are done with one verse. Good job, guys. We're doing great. I love it. We literally could take all day on, you know, one chapter, I feel like if we really wanted to. All right. Uh Haley, I guess you are verse 11.
Yep. It says, laugh no man to scorn in the bitterness of his soul, for there is one which humbles and one which exalts.
Do you
Basically,
have anything for that? Yeah.
basically what I got out of that is, don't kick a man while he's down. Um, it's important to lift up and encourage one another, especially when we're down and it's not the time to like, pick apart. Let's say this, for example, what was something I was thinking about, like if somebody's like sharing something or confiding in you about something or asking prayer for something, and like maybe they're not technically like right on whatever points, not, I mean, it's not really necessarily the time to like pick apart everything they're saying, but like support them, in those moments. I don't know. I mean, it's yeah, that's pretty much what I got out of it.
So from the Yah scriptures it says, mock no man in the bitterness of his being, for there is one who humbles and exalts. Pretty much the same thing.
It's Yahoo.
Um,
Yeah.
I have this is basically about compassion and mercy. I have bitterness of being would be like it's not like surface level emotion. So I don't think it's like offense. Like offense is sort of like a surface level emotion. I feel like the bitterness of your being is talking about like real internal turmoil of some kind. So bitterness of being I have is like shame or guilt or being distant from Yahuwah, either known or unknown. So some people know and can feel that they're distant from the Father, and that's really, really difficult. Or being distant from the Father, so far away and so outside of his will and his love and all of that, and even not even really realizing, but that bitterness of the inner being, sometimes even subconsciously, that comes from just being distant from the Father. And I think this is also kind of goes off lacking understanding, lacking spiritual senses. They cannot perceive the things that you can perceive. And so, like, mocking is to say, I'm better because of something to do with me. Like, that something that I have to offer, something that I am, is better than what you are right now. And I pictured reading that, I pictured Nebuchadnezzar walking, like, I don't know if it's on the roof or on the balcony of his castle, like looking over his kingdom, like feeling in his pride of looking over what he had built. And it's kind of the same spirit. It's the same spirit of pride that would turn around and mock somebody while they're in their weakness, to suggest that I'm somehow better than somebody else in this moment. So anyway, that was what I had for 11. Tina.
It takes me back to Job and his friends again. I know they didn't specifically laugh, but it's just that whole, you know,
Mm.
I remember, I can't remember what chapter and verse it is now, but Job was literally still for 7 days, not speaking, because he was so shell-shocked, I would imagine, by what had gone on around him. And those three of his friends come along. We're going to go and help Job. This grandiosity of, we're going to go and make him feel better, and we're going to go and do this, or at least that's how it comes across to me sometimes. And then they literally, throughout most of it, accuse him of being the reason it's all happened to him. And as much as there's plenty of reasons that Yah might have, he says at the end, you're wrong. That's not why I did any of this, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that lack of understanding, that lack of, for me, sometimes when I've been in this situation, the other person just seems like you said, yes, pride, but the lack of the relationship with Yah to know what his will is for most people in terms of their tests and their trials. Because when they happen, it is to strengthen us, as hard as it is. And there's been times when I've not wanted to think like that in the past, but it's true. And when somebody's kind of mocking that situation in whatever way, it's normally because they've not experienced it themselves. Is my sort of perspective on it. And that's sad in itself, because they don't have that relationship that I'd like to think that I've got with him. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Jer.
Well, what came to me was the very simple golden rule. If you see someone that is distressed in their soul and anguish and having trouble, like, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Like, what a time, like how you treat them when they're in there. Imagine yourself, walk a mile in their shoes, and how would you want to be treated? And if we just stop and take note of that, we would not be mocking them. Because would you like to be mocked when you were distressed in your soul? Like, I mean, so it's just that good old golden rule is so applicable to so much of our walk. He just tells us, just treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, if we just did that, it's almost like all the law and the prophets is summed up in, do unto others as you'd have done unto you. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It just have to pause and just put ourselves in that person's shoes. And I think the empathy and the sensitivity will come if we can just back up and look at it and have that heart. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Jackie, verse 12, if you would read for us, please.
It says, "Do not plan a lie against your brother, neither likewise to your friend."
Anybody have anything? I just have basically, to plan a lie is basically like making up a lie about somebody to win something over or to take something from them or whatever, but like a false witness. That's all I got for that.
Yeah.
I ran
Yeah.
across yesterday something that was kind of connecting, like that's planning a lie against your brother is almost like a form, like, I don't know. I'm not into witchcraft or anything like that, but it was like you're almost like working evil into their life, almost like gossip would be, you know what I mean? Or trying to give people the identity of that, you know, I don't know it. Yep. Muting
Yeah.
now.
No, yeah, but I totally understood your point
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
manipulation is witchcraft. I mean, like it is taking
Yeah.
something and twisting it, and like a lot of people don't see it as that, but like doing that sort of thing where you are wishing death energy onto somebody and you are literally like for no reason bringing and spilling, and I mean, you're essentially spilling innocent blood at that point, and it's witchcraft in the spirit. I mean, it's manipulation, it's witchcraft, it's murder in the spirit. Like it's the same heart posture. You can't plan a lie against somebody and not have hatred and wanting to like harm them. So, yeah, Jer.
I just have a real sensitivity and appreciation of the destructiveness of false testimony and lying. It is, I mean, if you just look at our world around us right now, there is so much lies. And then going back right to the garden, it was a lie. And then it's interesting that when it talks about the Father, it says, in him there is no lie. Like he completely devoid because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And so the lie is the exact opposite of that. And so, and there's no such thing as a white lie or a little lie. I always try to tell people that, the smaller the thing is that you're willing to lie about, the worse it is. Like I could, and I try to give it as an illustration, I could, probably empathize with someone who would be willing to lie for $1 million. That's understandable. Like that's almost convincing, maybe not to me, but I'm just understanding. But if you're willing to lie over like a stick of gum, so you will sell your integrity for a stick of gum. And you think that's any different than lying for $1 million? Like it's more understandable. So the smaller the lie is, it's actually the worse it is. So if you're not faithful in small things, you won't be faithful in great things. So we get tested in the small things. And if we can get compromised on the little things, then the big things are easy to get compromised on. So that's the thing about lying. It's just, oh, don't even get me started on lies. It's one of the pet peeves I have about people. If they can't be honest, you don't have anything. You don't have a relationship if you don't have truth. It's the relationship is a lie. So that's how I feel about lying, in a nutshell. So just wanted to share
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And there's, I mean, it's definitely a spiritual, scriptural principle. I read recently, and I don't even know where, I think it's also in the book of Nazarene that's talking about that many people only ever commit small offenses because they're never trusted with more. But if they were trusted with a lot more, they would just commit bigger offenses. So don't know where it is, but yes, so there's definitely for sure what you were saying. Tina.
I'm not sure if I'm going to word this well because I'm just thinking of a situation I've been in, but where I suppose, and it goes back to what Jackie was saying a little about the witchcraft side of things, is when you're in a situation where you've gone to somebody, like scripture says, if you need to talk to somebody about an issue, you go to them one on one, and then obviously it escalates from there. And I've been in a situation where I've done that, and then behind my back, they've turned what I've said into it being me that was in the wrong, if that makes sense. And it was a really confusing situation. I can't think of how I'm trying to put this, but people are smiling at me, so I'm assuming you know what I mean by this. But it's that pride of that person that was like, I don't want to look like I'm wrong here. She's called me out. face to face, but I don't want anybody else to know that. So I know that we've had this conversation individually, but I'm now going to twist it and make it look like that person that came to me and called me out is the one that's in the wrong. And it was like a whole group scenario that flipped on me in a moment. And I was like, whoa, hang on, what happened? And it's that, for me, one big lesson I learned was not expecting everyone to have the same way of dealing with something that I would deal with, as in the integrity to deal with it right, but also it was the pride that I saw in them of not wanting to accept that responsibility of that lie or that, and then turning it into a lie. And it was a very weird situation, but it kind of made me think about that. It's not just like lying purposefully first off about somebody, but actually twisting what they've done to try and help you into whatever it is that justifies the means for them. And it was just a very odd situation, but it goes into verse 13 as well. I know we haven't got there yet, but it says the same thing, for that is not a good habit to make any manner of a lie. And the whole thing is just, I'll be honest, from a codependency perspective, I have lied so much in my past to keep the peace. And I've really had to learn not to do that, and to stand in my integrity, to confess to things that I've done wrong, to, all those things that I never wanted to do in the past. And it is a level of pride. So having it flipped on me was like a really big eye opener as well for me to see how I used to be in the past too. So it works both ways, I think. But yeah, that was my perspective on it.
Absolutely. And I guess, Tina, would you go ahead and read, I guess, verse 13, because that's next. And it kind of just, I guess they should have probably been read together, but yeah, verse 13.
Yeah, it goes on to say, do not love to, I've got an English version of Sirach,
Okay.
so forgive me. Do not love to make any manner of lie, for that is not a good habit, is my version.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, basically the same thing, just slightly different wording for me.
Could be including lying to yourself, even maybe
mm,
could be lying to yourself about something. I don't know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a part of you that is the true you, and then there's a part of you that is the ego and the self-preservation and wanting to like twist things for yourself to make yourself more comfortable. So yeah, absolutely. Um, all right.
We
I
got
guess it's,
Jackie.
oh yeah, Jackie. Yeah, Jackie.
I posted this earlier. A lie is never justifiable. I actually read this book. I used to lie all the time, whether it was to build myself up or not make me look so poor or something. So in my spiritual walk very early on, I read that book and it gave an example where this 13, it says exactly that. Refuse to make any manner of lie, for the way of this is not good, period. And the father uses like, so let me just, so for an example, it used the example in the book where it was a real story, a true story, where this mother, a single mom, was being some bad guys come into the house, and they were coming in to rob, I guess, and they got thrown off because the mom and kids were actually there. And she instructed the kids to go hide upstairs in the closet, and she was still downstairs. Her and her son were downstairs hiding underneath the table, and the bad guys came in and saw them and put a gun to her face and asked if there were anybody else in the house or whatever. And she had a choice right then. She felt like she could lie and save her children that also were upstairs in the room, in the closet, safe, or she can choose to tell the truth and put at risk of, and she chose in the moment, because a lie is never justifiable. It just said, like, chose to not lie, say, yes, I have two other kids, they're upstairs in the closet, please leave them alone. And they showed her grace, kept all of them alive. And she just really, the point of this is that anytime we lie, that is sin getting in the way of also too, like the will of the Father. Like that's us interjecting into what he has working out for us. So it's just us getting in his way no matter what. any big or small.
A good point.
Absolutely. Something as you were talking, I was remind of like I was just thinking of like energetically, what a lie is energetically, because we know that our words have power that we speak, and like I mean, affirmations are important because we're coming into agreement with the things we say. And Messiah says that what comes out of a man defiles him. And I was thinking about what that means and like how a lie could defile our being, in a sense of like a lie is essentially the opposite of truth, which is goodness, the opposite of truth. And so when you are speaking a lie out and into the world, you're basically saying like that your being is not, like you're coming into agreement with it, like you're speaking that energy and that um yeah, I mean, I think I don't know how to really communicate it as good as what is in my head, but I'm literally just picturing it's like as this lie is coming out of your mouth in order to speak this. So it's like you and your will and your power, that consciousness that the Father gave you has to use force and the breath of life within you that the Father gave you to speak this blasphemy, power-filled like energy that's coming out of you. Like your soul is coming into agreement with a lie, and it's contrary to the Father. You are literally binding yourself spiritually and energetically to something that is completely outside of the Father. And like, yeah, so that's what I was picturing with that. Yeah, Jer.
I'm not ever trying to justify lying, but it just situations come to mind. For example, during a war or something, and you've been captured and you're being interrogated, and they want to know where all your comrades are, or so they can go there and destroy all this and potentially kill thousands of people instead of, what would Messiah do if he was captured in that moment? And would silence be the answer? I mean, rather than speaking a lie. And there's always these conundrums that we get ourselves into. Like, I just pray that I never get into that situation, but you'd make a terrible spy if you couldn't lie. So, for example, you'd always tell them the truth about everything. Oh, the nuclear weapons over here, even though nukes don't exist. But you know, uh, it's interesting. I'm just saying, like I always wonder what would Messiah do, or like would you just trust him to take care of the situation rather than speaking falsely about what you're being asked? Just curious what some people's thoughts are about that in such a situation where you're telling the truth could potentially, all things considered, cause massive death and loss. Is that okay? I mean, well, I didn't lie, but 1,000 people got killed because of it. Or, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to want to know what other people's perspectives are on such a thing. That's all.
So there's actually, I mean, a scriptural precedent for this. So when we see a time when David fakes insanity when he's captured and he pretends to be literally insane, there's a level of deception, just like there's a level of bloodshed that is justified and okay in the eyes of the Father when it comes to wartime. So there's a difference between war, there's a difference between peace. And it's why David wasn't responsible for building the temple, but Solomon was, because Solomon was in the time of peace. David was in the time of war. David shed blood. David pretended insanity. David did all these things that, like, we're not supposed to kill, right? We're not supposed to lie. We're not supposed to do these things. But there's a certain level in which the Torah operates depending on the situation. And so, like, in that situation, it seems like, and here's the thing, like, there's lots of examples of bloodshed being justified in war, right? But there's less examples of lying being justified, but there is examples of it. And I feel like it's very, very particular, and it's not something that we as humans can really just know when it's okay and when it's not okay without the Ruach HaKodesh. Like, I feel like the Ruach is the only way for us to know. And I think a good general rule is like, at any time when on it, like I honesty is so, 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 so important to me. And I know I would struggle, even if I was captured, to lie, because it's something that's so, I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. But there is a time and place for killing. There's a time and place for hiding secrets. There's a time and place for not revealing everything. And it depends on who you're with and who you're around. I mean, scripture talks about like, don't share everything about yourself and whatever to people you don't trust, because, they'll use it against you. And so the father's wise, and he's not, he understands all things. But yeah, Tina.
Well, I just wanted to say that I think what you're talking about is what is coined as situational ethics. So it depends on the situation what ethics apply or not. War, peace, everything so on. I mean, that's a big topic of philosophy, like situational ethics. So I understand what you're saying, and I just want to, poke the bear a bit and see what other people had to say about that thing. But I mean, it's definitely not a clear and cut answer. It would have to be at that time and for you to figure it out in that moment, as you said in the Ruach, of what's the best thing to do. Who knows, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Tina.
So two things I was going to say, and one of them came up into mind when Joe was talking, but the first one was about when you were saying about coming into agreement with a lie. There are people that I've spoken to in my past, and it took a while because my discernment wasn't good before I came to Yah at all about people in general. But it occurred to me with a few people that the lies that they'd told, they actually believe, because they'd probably used them so often, they actually believed themselves. So it's like you were saying, coming into agreement with it, yes, but also actually twisting it so much in your own mind that the more you're saying it, the more it's actually truth to you. And I've seen that with quite a few people in my life, and it is quite scary and quite delusional almost when you see it happen. But the other thing I was going to say about what Joe was saying about, do you lie in certain situations? And I totally get the scriptures you've just quoted, but the things that came to mind with me are around in Proverbs, the word fool or folly is used a lot, and a lot of it is around. So there's chapter 14, 3, a fool's talk brings a rod to his back, but the lips of the wise protect them. And then 15:2, the tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. And I just felt like, in terms of what you were saying, Jer, about, being in a situation where somebody's asking you where your comrades are, or where's the gun, or whatever it is. I think personally in those situations, that's what those apply to. And actually in that situation, I just try to keep my mouth shut, because I can't lie. I can't lie easily at all. It's written all over my face normally. So to not be in the folly of that lie, to me, is more about staying silent. And I know Yahusha stayed silent a lot. He answered, but he also answered in ways that gave them a question back. So like with the Pharisees, when they were trying to catch him out, whenever he was in a sermon or whatever, he wouldn't necessarily answer their question. He would ask them something else that flipped it around on them. And that to me is being able to do that, being able to point out somebody's folly without actually lying, or, you know what I mean? It's the way that works. But to me, for me personally now, because of the issues I've had with lying in the past, I just prefer to stay silent. I'd just zip it, because it wouldn't be worth me trying to go there.
Jess.
Yeah, Proverbs also came to me about even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent. So I vote on the silence.
Yeah. And that kind of feeds into the next verse and stuff. Before we move that way, like as I was hearing Tina kind of continue to speak, like to kind of further what I was saying earlier, of like when you lie, you're coming into agreement with the lie. And I'm realizing there's it's like ones and zeros or black and white. There's truth and then there's lies, and there's nothing, it's one or the other. And so if you lie, if you're coming into agreement with the lies and that's something you're doing, you're literally breaking the ability to even perceive what truth is anymore. You are completely ripping away your ability, the connection to the spirit of truth, the ability to identify truth, because you've come out of agreement with truth and you're now in agreement with lies. And so this creates zero ability to discern truth and other things in your life, zero inner light, zero guiding light, and then you just lack wisdom and discernment and all the things of like everything else because you're no longer in agreement with truth. So yeah, that was the, I guess, final thought
I
for me
just
on that.
wanted to say it's
Yeah.
working now, so if you need me to read, I can.
Oh, cool. All right, Jerry. Yeah.
Something that came to my mind was, which my line of work, I'm actually a bailiff in the courthouse. So I hear this mess all the time. Every time someone's sworn in to speak, do you swear under penalty of perjury that your testimony you're about to give will be truthful? Well,
Right.
so all they have to say is yes. But I feel like it's more of a heart posture, more of an ethical thing that you're actually going to tell the truth. But to the system, that's good enough. If I ask you this question and you swear that it's going to be truthful, oh well, we're going to believe you. But that don't mean that they're actually going to tell the truth unless your heart's in the right place and you want to be honest and you want to be truthful. You're going to find a way around it either way. And even giving testimony on the stand, they always tell you, and even attorneys will tell their people, only answer what you're asked. Don't give additional information. If you're asked a question, just answer the question and leave it at that.
Or you don't have to answer at all.
Yeah, you can only speak about what you know for one, but you have to want to be honest to be honest. So, what's penalty of perjury? So, like, most people don't even know what that is. So, why is it going to matter if they lie or not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of those people are disconnected from their conscience and their connection to what's right and wrong already. And so there's not really a reason, like them swearing to be honest doesn't really mean anything to them already. So what's the point? Yeah, Jer.
I have a great deal of experience with the court system and the legal system, like up here in Canada, anyway. And it is a fact that it is not acknowledged or recognized, but you become immediately compromised the moment you place your hand on the Bible and swear. Because if you know
Yeah,
what the Bible
exactly.
teaches,
Yeah,
what it says, you're commanded
yeah,
not to do that. So
yeah,
therefore, by you doing that and engaging it, you're contradicting yourself. You're double-minded. So I will never swear on a Bible to tell the truth. I'll do it like I said. Let my yes
absolutely.
be yes and my no mean no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one. Like, do not
Yep,
swear by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is footstool, or by the Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king. And don't swear by your head, because you can't change one hair black or white. But when you speak, simply let your yes be yes and your no be no. And anything beyond that comes from the evil one. That is pretty serious. So I will never swear in the Bible to tell the truth. And I've been to court, and there's not a problem with that. And I tend to think, I don't know, but the people in the court that know will respect anybody that takes that stand, because then they'll know this person knows the thing here. They know what they're doing. Just a quick example. It's funny. I had a I had to go to court once, so I didn't. It was by remote CCTV camera, and the judge is like this, and he's going, date of birth, and I didn't say anything. And he looks up all perturbed, like I'm an idiot. He goes, what's the matter with you? You don't even know the day you were born? And I says, well, to be honest, I was really, really, really young at the time. And the only information I have in that regard is hearsay evidence told to me after the fact that I can't testify to it. And as being third party hearsay evidence, it's inadmissible in a court of law. And he looked at me and he goes, you're absolutely correct. I says, I'm really glad you know that. Then he goes, oh, where do you live? And I said, well, I don't know about you, but I live right here, right now, inside this body, and I've never lived anywhere else. That's where I live. Because they're looking for you to say you live in an address, which is a legal person and all this other stuff. So they knew who they were dealing with. So they go, okay. So it was quite fun. But they don't come across people that know this stuff very much. So it was quite interesting. I just wanted to share that about, swearing, and because Jerry talked about putting your hand on the Bible and swearing to tell the truth and that. And I just wanted to share that a little bit. So I got to talk about this for hours, but anyway.
Good point.
All right. Who's next? I guess me or no, Jackie. Not Jackie. Jess. Jess is next.
Oh, okay.
Jess, if you would read verse 14 for us. And yes, Yuri mentioned we are 3 verses in and we are a whole hour in. Look at us go. Oh, hey, I will say, I love all the discussion, but I think if we can try to be mindful of we're not going to get through this unless we try to keep it scripture related, I guess. I'm just sitting here going, oh, we are gonna get through 5 verses this whole 2 hours, and that's gonna be where we're at. So anyway, whenever we can, I guess we'll try to speed it up. Anyway, all right, sorry. Yeah, Jess, 14.
Do not use many words among a multitude of elders, and do not make much babbling when you pray. I had something to say, which we touched on the babbling while you're praying earlier. And the elders, there's so much scripture on how to behave with the elders. And I think it just boils down to, basically giving them the respect. They're the elder, they have the wisdom. So I think it even basically tells you to shut up somewhere in Proverbs.
That's kind of funny. We actually, yeah, as well, and later in this chapter, it kind of covers some of that as well. So we'll touch on it. Does anybody else have anything? I have a paragraph written about this. So do not use many words among elders. Make much babbling when you pray. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. So what I wrote was when you are around spirit-filled people, leaders, elders, other people that you respect or look up to, don't try to puff yourself up to be seen. Don't try to prove that there's the Ruach within you. Something that I used to do is try to involve myself in leadership and involve myself with ministry elders because I felt that if I could get them to see the Ruach within me and to acknowledge that within me, it would validate my own belief that I had the Ruach within me. I don't know if that makes sense. And so don't try to sound smarter than you are or more Ruach led or more impressive. Don't do or say things to be seen or noticed or to get approval from man. So I picture people basically babbling on with things that they think are impressive, basically, to try to just be noticed as being seen or to just prove themselves to be Ruach led because they have this need to want to be seen in that way. And I so was like that. And I realized actually the transition in my life when I finally, like, the rock woke me up from that is when I was in seminary school. And I remember sitting in class and like genuinely loving the discussion, but I felt this need to ask hard questions and have all the right answers and to try to prove that I knew scripture and to prove these things. And then I realized, like, after, like, honestly, like my second day of classes, like the rock was like, who are you trying to prove this for? Like, who are you trying to? And I realized, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't need anyone, even the most spirit-filled person on this earth. I don't need them to validate the Father within me to get me more advanced in the kingdom, that the Father will elevate me in the kingdom when he's ready to do so. And so that was my overall interpretation of verse 14 based on my own humiliation and what I've had to deal with in the past. Anybody else on that? Any thoughts on that before we move on? No. Okay. Verse 15. What? Hold on.
I was hoping she was coming back with another joke.
In our little terrarium, one of the things that we caught was like a really creepy centipede that's like super fast. And I think I don't know how big they get, but anyway, she says it's out and she really wants me to come look at it. Anyway, all right, verse 15. Do not hate laborious work, neither work of the land which the Most High has ordained, which I just love. That kind of just, I want to work at the land. I love manual labor. I was just talking to Jackie yesterday. I love manual labor. I love being in the sun. I love getting my hands dirty and having blisters on my hands because I'm working hard. And um, I love that. I don't, yeah. So anyway, anybody have thoughts on 15? I don't have anything really other than, yeah. No? Okay. Bobby is the next one to read. 16.
I did. Sorry, I found my
Oh,
mute and everything late. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Yeah.
This is just really loud to me. Do not hate. By the way, I say laborious. You said laborious, and I've never heard it that way before, so that was pretty cool. But do not hate laborious work, neither work of the land, which the Most High has ordained. And that just makes me think, um, to take joy and find positive things when I do have to go to work every day, even then I don't want to, or if I need to clean my house or whatever, to find joy in it and stuff like that, because he did ordain those things for me. So anyway.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Like, yeah, laborious work doesn't just mean working the land anymore. Like, it can just mean working hard and doing what you need to do, even when it's not fun.
I was
So
just
yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just agreeing with Jackie. Yeah, what?
Just spontaneously, I was telling my nephew yesterday, we got to turn on some music because music makes everything more fun because we were cleaning and stuff. So I said, let's turn on some music because it makes everything more fun.
It does, absolutely. I love cleaning with music and organizing with music and painting with music and all the things. Worshiping, it's great. Absolutely. Um, all right, Bobby, 16.
Okay. Do not number yourself among the crowd of sinners, but remember the wrath shall not delay.
Oh, could you actually read 17 as well? Because I think those are
Okay.
connected.
Humble yourself greatly, for the punishment of the wicked is fire and worms.
Thank you. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Those two verses? So I have really interesting. I paired them together because I feel like verse 16 gives the problem, and then verse 17 gives the solution, kind of. So, like, if you don't want to be what 16 says, then you got to do what 17 says. So, do not number yourself among the crowd of sinners. And then it's like, so how do you not number yourself among the crowd of sinners? Verse 17, humble yourself greatly. So it's kind of like, I don't know, cause and effect, step A, step B, or whatever. But the notes that I have surrounding those two verses is basically like, um, this is not in regards to ministry, because like Messiah is a perfect example of he dined with sinners. This is not talking about don't be around people that are sinful or whatever, because we are called to go and be in the world and to share the light. This is talking about not being in agreement with sinners, to not be counted among them as being in agreement. So we see in Old Testament that the entire nation of Israel was punished for the sins of one man at one circumstance, that it's so a big deal basically when you are in full agreement with somebody and they are walking in sin and you are in agreement with that. Like even if you're not participating in it, when you are in agreement with somebody, their own what they're doing affects you. There's no way around it. So the verse that came to mind but was basically two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Basically, what you surround yourself with, if you are coming at it of I am stepping down into this area for ministry purposes to try to bring people up into a higher level of intimacy with the Father, that's one thing. But if you are just existing and feeling like you belong, like that energy is going to affect you. So that's what I had for those two verses. Anybody else have anything for those two verses? No. Okay, moving on. We're going faster this second little bit. We're cruising. We're good. All right. 18. Who's next? Haley. No. Yeah, Haley. Haley, would you read
Yep.
let's see.
Change
Yeah.
not change not a friend for any good by no means, neither a faithful brother for the gold of Ophir.
Does anybody have anything for this? No. Oh, yeah, Tina.
Well, not, I mean, to be honest, to me, that kind of speaks for itself. But the interesting bit is, I've been doing a lot of looking into Solomon and his movements, and Ophir, or Ophir, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, is a place that is mentioned in sort of the speakings of Solomon quite a lot. And it's a place, I believe it's a place that is now sort of in around Saudi Arabia and Yemen. And it was quite a well-known place for where Solomon got the gold for the temple. So it's interesting because we know that Solomon's life was very, started off very righteous and then dropped. And it made me think of him in terms of maybe, exchanging things. I mean, he was a friend of Yahuwah in lots of ways. He went downhill pretty quickly when he started to dabble in different things and different arts, and maybe the gold of a fear was part of that temptation. I don't know, but that's what came to mind when I was looking at it, more so than what it actually means for us. But I suppose from that perspective, it can be anything. Don't sell out your friend for whatever is going to benefit you, I suppose.
Yeah. I basically had like, it's not literally talking about selling someone for goods. Like, it's not talking about selling your friend into slavery for stuff. This is taking like, don't ever sacrifice true friendship for success or fame or things or money, things this world. It is suggesting that friendship, when it is pure, is more valuable than anything to gain in this world, things to get. And so I've been feeling this verse recently, just connecting with some more people, some sisters, just in the last week, having some conversations and really cherishing friendship. So I've been in the feelies of friendship, and it's so true. It's so true. And I think for us who have like walked in this life, many of us alone, many of us feeling like, gosh, we can't even trust ourselves, let alone the people around us, and like having this like just feeling alone and walking alone and maybe being misunderstood or not feeling there's anyone around us that we can truly trust with all that we are, to now, from my own personal experience, the Father bringing people into my life that I can trust with every fiber of my being to not only speak words of edification over me. Like, it's easy to find people that will just tell you things to make you feel good. So who will not only edify me in truth, but like to keep me accountable and to push me towards the Father, and who can speak into my life, and who can that type of friendship that will push you towards the Father and love you unconditionally and see your flaws and your weaknesses, and to not ever look at you any differently, but just to see you as you are, see you through the Father's eyes. Like, these things are something that, like, you can't trade that for gold and silver and the things of this world. Like, I feel that so deeply in my being that these relationships are outside space and time, and so key to our own progression towards the Father. Like, I was talking to Jackie yesterday of interacting with all of you is getting another glimpse of the Father within you, that I can literally, I mean, we all, it's not just me, but my personal experience of climbing the mountain like Moshe to see the glory of the Father has been getting to know each individual person that's a part of this new Jerusalem, this new Zion, and seeing the window into the heavens that is in them, because Messiah is the doorway, right? And so the Messiah is in them, and I get to see the doorway into the heavens. I get to see their access to the Father. And so it's just, I get to see the greater glory of the Father through each and every one of the people that he's bringing into this family, and as we get to know each other. So I'm just very grateful. Anybody else have anything about that before we move on? In the fields for the mishpacha, I will say. All
I just feel
right.
it's odd that that exact thing in 18 happened to Yahusha and Joseph. So
Oh yeah, 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 yep. And like the amount of promise and the amount of anointing on both of their lives, that happened to both of them. It's very interesting. Um, all right, who's next? Jackie, right? Are you next for reading? I think Haley just went. So Jackie, would you read 19 for us, please?
Yeah, I don't know where it was, but I have something to speak on real quick on what you had just said, and then I'll get onto that. I think, I don't even remember if it was in this study today, but there was, maybe it was, but maybe it wasn't. Either way, you mentioned seeing the doorway, like their access. One thing that I think is very important is even some of the most challenging people, maybe even in our Michpaka, through our weaknesses, um, as we're learning and growing together, we should and could continue to be finding each other's value within one another,
Mm-hmm.
and really being curious with one another, because that does open that door. I mean, we are all here for the Father has brought us here. The Father has been working, in each of our lives, and so we just have so much to learn from one another there. And so there was, I don't even know if I'm tying something to, I feel like I can move on, but um maybe it's being quiet to listen. But moving on to the verse that we're on.
Actually, just because yesterday when I was reading through this, I was thinking of you specifically for verses 20 through 22. And so, Tina, could I actually have you read 19, and then Jackie, would you read 20 to 22
Mhm.
afterwards?
Mhm.
Just because I really want to hear like how your brain interprets these, like specifically, yeah, in regards to business and stuff. Anyway, 19. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of things. 19. Tina, would you read 19 for us, please? Thank you
Sure.
so much. Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, okay. So 19, do not deprive yourself of a wise and good wife, for her grace is worth more than gold. And that just makes me
Interesting.
think of
Yeah.
Proverbs 21 and Lady Wisdom, and also the beginning of Proverbs when it talks about Lady Wisdom. And yeah, just a bit of a shout out for the women there, obviously. But anyway,
It's funny. So yours says wife, mine just says woman. Do not forsake a wise and good woman, for her favor is above gold. Does anybody have anything about that? Because I do have a whole paragraph about it. And um,
I have one sentence. The most
yeah,
successful men openly admit that they listen to their wife.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. So what I have about this, so favor, so her favor is above gold. So we really want to understand what favor is. Why is that above gold? When we think about like other things we seek favor from. So when we seek favor from, what are you laughing at? Are you laughing at me? I'm like self-conscious now. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, my hubby's a rich man. Yes. Amen, Jackie. All right. When we're seeking favor, I didn't think you were laughing at me. I just didn't want to be outside of the joke. I wanted to know what you guys were laughing at. Anyway, okay. When we seek favor from the Most High, we are seeking benefit from his power and authority. So his power and authority, when we're asking for his favor, we are wanting his grace, we are wanting his benefit, we are wanting his blessing, that sort of thing, his favor, some sort of benefit from his power and authority. If we were to think about this in earthly ways, um, we can seek favor from the rich, the famous. We can seek favor from celebrities. We can seek favor from businesses. We can seek favor from the government or even royalty or influential people. It's the same thing. We are seeking benefit from their power and authority or their money and status. It's what can I get out of this relationship, if that makes sense, because they have something to gain. And so when we come to this understanding, what would be the favor of a wise and good woman on a man's life? And why would it be above gold? And that's what I have. I ended on a question, I guess, of just thinking of it in that way of something that the woman has to offer that is a benefit, that is something that the man does not have access to, basically, that she brings in. Anybody else have any thoughts on 19 before we move on? No. Okay. So yeah, Jackie, I think you have like I would love to know, or have you read through 20 through 22, because they're all sort of, I have them in a bracket that says businesses or employers or people in like elevated positions of some sort of business. Like, I think that that's what this is for, or like how we should think of it. So 20 through 22. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say about
Yeah. Yeah.
woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She brings balance. That is what is so valuable to a man, no matter how rich he is or endowed with anything. She brings balance, and on the scales of being balanced. So, like, that's why we're split. We're male and female. I think that's the greatest gift of a woman can bring to a man is balance. And in likewise, he can balance her too. So it's mutual. It's a back and forth. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Haley.
I wasn't going to say this before, but I was thinking when I was looking at the word grace and like exactly what you said there, Jared, but also when I think of the word grace, I think of like that power, within, a lot of people think it's like unmerited favor or whatnot, but I also think it's like that the power to like overcome or whatever the case. But I just see it as like, her the prayers that she can give and offer, like that could do more. I don't know how to word what I'm trying to say. Could be more effective, more powerful than anything. I think the prayer life and that the wisdom and prayer together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for women naturally being more connected to the spiritual realm, and that's not arrogance. I mean, we just have a portal to the heavenly realms within our body, and all cultures kind of have understood that. So the favor the power and authority of a woman's prayers to cover her husband and to support him. And just, yeah, that wisdom that she can bring is, yeah,
Thank you.
it's
I
a
don't
beautiful
know if I can
thing.
ever communicate what I'm trying to say properly.
Did I communicate what you were trying to say? I like, yeah. I'm glad that I helped somehow. All right, moving on. Lovely Jackie. Um, would you read for us 20 to 22, please?
It is loaded. Um, when your servant works trustworthy, do not mistreat him, nor the hired man that gives himself completely for you. Let your love be a good servant, and do not withhold his freedom. Do you have cattle? Keep an eye on them, and if they are your proper profit, keep them with you. So you
Any
kind of,
thoughts?
yeah, my thoughts. Well, first and foremost, right out the gate, hardworking, trustworthy people are the most dedicated and most precious individuals, I think, to a team. And I think that they're also the ones that are most easily taken advantage of and created burnout on and ran down on and all of that stuff. And so when you're working from that heart of love with that higher purpose, then like you're uh, caring for your cattle, you're meeting their needs, you're uplifting them, and kind of like you had kind of mentioned too, like there's that space in between where you can be a launching pad for people and stuff too. But also, all yeah. Um, do not withhold his freedom. I think was really loud for me is also to make sure that there's space in your relationship with those that you employ or that you're in relationship with. Just some space of communication, I think too. And yeah, I don't know. That's just
Awesome.
kind of like some stuff right off my head.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So like when I was reading through this, I basically was like, okay, so we're not farming and having cattle right now, and we're not having servants and all of that. So we have to wonder like, how does this apply to us today? And thinking of businesses and employment, that's basically the same. Like if you are employed by somebody, you are basically what servants were back then. And even slaves back then were only meant to be a temporary thing. It was only ever meant to be like 7 years of servitude and then freedom. And like often it was like you work hard for 7 years, that is your freedom. And so that ties into verse 21. I found this of like basically talking about sort of tying into how you started of like how hardworking, dedicated people are often the ones who like you want to keep them doing the hard work because they're the ones that are actually doing it, and you don't want to give them their freedom. You don't want to lose them. You don't want to have them. And so a lot of people that are really hardworking don't ever get promoted. They don't ever get a raise. They don't ever get because they're so valued at where they're at. And so I believe that basically verse 21 specifically is kind of tying into that understanding of like, let your being love a good servant and do not withhold his freedom. Do not withhold advancing him because it makes your job easier. Do not be afraid of letting him go and maybe like losing him in some of the harder work, but that he's able to really be used to his fullest potential, because now we have to perceive that. I mean, if we switch this now, not even into the physical kingdom, but like the spiritual kingdom of like these are brothers and sisters. When we think we have authority to keep someone back and hold somebody, we're robbing them of like allowing them and pushing them to go further with the Father as well. And so, um, yeah, keeping somebody, caring for them while they're under your care, but then when they're ready to go out and to move on and to grow and do greater things, that it's our job to also support them and to
I,
encourage them.
I agree with that. In fact, I think that that's fundamental. And also, too, just as you were speaking, not withhold the freedom, that also reminds me, too, oftentimes we have a tendency like this is a process, this is the way it's done. And people have a tendency to feel restrained or if you're going to go out and work this land, you've got to use this tool and this tool, but really there's freedom. You can go and do this job however you feel like you can execute on it. And that brings out their strengths, that brings out their creativity, and it helps launch them. And that's helping you find value in them at a greater level too. And so it does all just kind of come full circle for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I see you, Tina. I'm just gonna real quick. Do you have cattle? Keep an eye on them. I just think cattle would basically be assets. Like if you have assets or things that are important for the business to just, I think it's just common sense, like keep an eye on them. But yeah, Tina.
Touching on something you said and what came to mind. So the phrase that came to mind was about letting something go, and often it will come back to you. So you mentioned about slaves back then, and obviously it being a 7 year sort of turnaround, I suppose you'd call it. But there is something that says in scripture that if they choose to stay, there's like a way of doing, that I think they have to do something with it. I can't remember what it is, but like punch the ear or whatever it was. But it was that thing. If you love your servants enough, or you love the people around you that are helping you, because Yuri's put a really valid comment in there for now in the chat, is like you're looking at it as people like in our group here. If we're not taking advantage of each other, and if we're loving each other enough and taking on board each other's opinions and making them feel, making people feel heard and validated, maybe not to like people please, but just so that they feel edified in this walk, even if they have to go away for a little bit, or even if they have to change tack or whatever, they're likely to want to come back. They're likely to want to stay with you. And the same with a cattle bit is like, if they're profitable to you, let them stay by you. And there are people out there, I think, I know in my walk, where I've been in groups where I've been kind of taken advantage of a bit, and I've not really wanted to stay because there's no real, yes, I'm wanted or I'm needed, but it's not necessarily for the right reasons. So yeah, that kind of give it away to get it back type thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And that helps me, like being in some sort of like, I find myself in a ministry leadership position where people will come and go, and I'm going to get attached to some of the people who come, and they're going to go and do their things. And it's really a good thing for me to recognize that. So thank you for what you shared about people coming and going in the ministry and all of that. If the Father's going to lead them back, he's going to lead them back. So yeah. Anybody else before we move on? The next little bit is like, really, I had to chew on some of these things to be able to understand what and why and all of that. So I think I might just sort of read through verse by verse 23 to 28, because I have little notes like all through these next couple verses, just because I don't know. Anyway, so we'll go through it. I'm going to read verse by verse, explain what I thought, and then we'll give you guys a chance to talk. And then once we get to 29 and finishing out, we'll split it up some more. All right. Do you have children? Instruct them and bow their necks from their youth. So what I have is basically instruct. I don't have that as like thinking of that as just like bossing. I think it's leading through leadership, through leading by example. So instruct your children, show them hands-on, teach them the ways of Yahuwah. And then it says, and bow their necks from their youth. And I don't know that this is necessarily like, it's not like enslavement, but it's like humility. Literally teach them humility, teach them obedience, teach them the things of the Ruach, for they will not depart. But all of it centers around not just I'm a distance and I'm just sharing this stuff with you and you have to listen, but to say, this is how we do this. This is why we do this, that the instructions of the Father and how he teaches us. This is kind of how we're going to try to instruct our kids. That's what I have for 23. Yeah, Jer.
What came to mind with the bowing the neck is, of course, the Japanese. It's you are showing respect to each other in a calm, quiet way, and it's just a very respectful thing that from their youth they're taught to, like, take your shoes off in the house and be calm and respectful and honor. And a very, very admirable quality in a society to have that humility and that subjugation, uh, just respecting your elders and stuff. And it's for your betterment to do that. You're not restricting your children. Like the American way is like go out there and be loud and boisterous and, rip up the town. And it's such a contrast, And so I that's what came to mind when they said bow the neck, of course, is the Japanese. So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else before moving on? No. Do you have daughters? Look after their body and do not be too generous towards them. So I think of this. We just talked about in verse 19 this value and treasure of this woman and what she can bring. So we're a lot of scripture can be interpreted as like misogynistic and treating women as like objects or things to be traded and sold. But we have to understand it's not about being an object. It's about being something of great value, something of great significance and value for these next couple of verses. So I guess I'll read verses 20 through I'll do 20. Yeah, so I'll do 24 to 25. So do you have daughters? Look after her body because it's valuable, and teach them why. Teach them about the portal in their womb and how you want to protect that, and teach them how to be modest, and teach them the role of a woman and all of that. Teach them it's not just about avoid and don't have sex till marriage because of whatever. Like this is like today of like the culture is just like, don't do it because it's sin. Teach your daughters the value of what they are, the creation of what they are, because it's above gold. It is so beautiful and so prized, and the purpose before it of it. And then it says, do not be too generous towards them. And that's don't spoil them. Don't just give them whatever they want, because that's going to teach them to just continue that later on in life. And so that's how I interpreted 24. Tina, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said, but I just wanted to add another level to this, and this is my own journey, is in terms of teaching them to take care of their bodies and not be overly indulgent. My mum was a feeder, and I have serious food issues these days. And I think across the globe, we're taught that food does, what we eat doesn't really matter that much. And yet we are temples of, if we're following, we're temples of the Ruach. So we have to be careful about what we're eating, what we're consuming, not just bodily wise, I suppose, but just in general. But also not being overly indulgent, not, like you said, not spoiling them, but that's not just like spoiling them in terms of things, but like spoiling them with like killing them with kindness, giving them sweet treats every 5 minutes and all that kind of stuff. So that was just the extra bit really that I felt went with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it teaches them to basically expect that later on in life. And I had to check in myself of like how often I'm giving Addie the things that she wants to just eat and snack on and all of the things because it's easy and whatever.
Do you think it has anything to do with like build her up, but don't build her up too much that then she uses that for folly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's teaching sobriety, it's teaching humility. I mean, if you're teaching a woman that her body is basically worth more than gold, you have to be able to balance that because a woman in scripture is either something that is worthy to be praised or she's a harlot leading men astray. Like women are so prone, which is why women cover their heads and all of the things. Women have so much access to spiritual things, and they are the glory of the man. The wife is the glory of her husband, and there's so much that a woman brings, so much treasure, so much. And like Lucifer shows us, Hasatan, Belial, whatever, Hallel, whatever you want to call him, the fallen angel shows us what happens when you receive glory and praise and beauty without humility. It's the pride, it's rebellion and arrogance and all of those things. And those things are not becoming when you have spiritual power at your disposal. And so, like women, manipulation is a feminine trait. That Jezebel spirit of, I am smarter and I'm going to manipulate you into doing what I want you to do. And so for women, for men, raising women, and like there's this understanding that like a woman can be such a treasure and a value and give insight and all of these things when she's walking in humility before the father, when she's been, raised up in the right way, whether it's parents or the father doing the work in her. The benefit, the correct woman is a tent stake, building the entire home and setting the tone for the entire home. But the wrong woman tears down the home and destroys it and brings ridicule and shame and all of the things. And so there's this big, big contrast. And so the job, the weight of raising daughters is like, you really can't go too far to the right or too far to the left. They are treasures. They're not objects. But you also can't treat them like they're just the most precious thing in the whole world and they get whatever they want. They need to know their value and their worth, but walk with a sober mind, submitted to the Father with their head covered. I mean, it's all things. But yeah, Tina.
Yeah, it just reminded me of the, the fact that as women, we've all gone through the teachings of this world. We can have it all. We can work full time. We can have children. We can have money. We can do this. We can do that. We don't need a man, and all that kind of stuff. And going back to what Jer said earlier when we were talking about a wife being, it's about balance. And I know from my own walk that I've gone from having absolutely no self-worth to understanding my worth, but then having to make sure that the other parts of, I used to earn a lot of money and I used to do this and I used to do that and be able to make my own decisions, is not something I'm still walking in as well. And it is the balance of the two. And without that, like you said, you go one way or another. You can't stay true to Yah by going off it one way.
Absolutely. Jer.
Well, I couldn't help but think about, the effect and influence that women have had on mankind, starting with the Garden of Eden. And also, we don't know the specifics, and it made me think about, I wonder what the fathers of the the daughters of men that the fallen ones saw that they were beautiful and came and made wives. What type of a relationship did these men, fathers, have with their daughters that did not curtail that, prevent it, or I mean, we can't know. Like, whose fault was it? Was it just all the fallen angels that just came and took them and they didn't object, or were like, I wonder what the interplay was there between the beauty of the women and that's a pretty strong effect, from Eden and then the flood. I mean, my goodness, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's pretty powerful, not to be underestimated, the effect that women and femininity has on the population as a whole. So
Yeah.
basically, us men are helpless. Let's just put it that way.
Well,
I'm just saying.
women were the ones that raised kings. So in all of the Old Testament, when like a king was announced, it was so and so, son of so and so, but it was the woman, the son of the mother. The woman raised the king. If we think of when Paul talks about why does a woman cover her head, it's for the sake of the angels. And so we don't see a lot of the details in the canon, but there's some apocryphal texts, and I don't remember which one, but I know that it's there, that show a little bit more details of how that happened with the fallen angels and the woman. And there's some documentation that says that it was basically the women who lusted after the angels and seduced them, that basically ended up seducing the angels to want to do that. Which is a whole other thing. Like, it's a whole other perception, but like, yeah, like, women have a massive effect on mankind, and it's why the woman was attacked in the garden. Because the woman, if the serpent had gone to the man first, the man would have probably been able to resist. But the serpent knew that if he could get the woman to fall, that the man would fall with her. That was the guarantee to get to mankind, was to have the woman fall first. And like, the other side of that is the Most High gave Adam the instructions. He didn't give Eve the instructions directly. Eve got the instructions through the man. And so like, it's this mutual relationship, but the enemy knows that the woman is so unbelievably influential over all of mankind. I mean, mankind is literally birthed through the woman. And so women, man.
Men's downfall. Well, I've often seen the Garden of Eden as like the greatest love story ever told, because I think Adam consciously chose Eve and to maintain a relationship with her above his walk with Yahweh. He saw that she had been separated, and he gave up his life for her. In the same way, Messiah is called the second Adam, and he gives up his life for his bride, us. So it's like, that's the kind of love, sacrificial love, I believe that Yahweh wanted, but not necessarily by falling. But it's hard to fault someone who's willing to give up everything for the woman, for his wife. I mean, that's why I see it as, well, that's an incredible love story. He must have loved Eve like he couldn't bear to be without her, and he sacrificed everything for her.
Yeah. I mean, you are
Literally
bone of my
everything.
bone, flesh of my
Yeah,
flesh.
like, I
Yeah.
mean, he did. And so Yah saw this, and I think that's the kind of relationship, sacrificial love, that he wants, willingly, free will choice to do it. And it's kind of hard to fault it, because it's such an expression of sacrificial love. That's why I've seen the fall as it. But anyway,
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
share that.
I agree. I think it also shows, like, when we're able to look at it from that perspective rather than just, oh, this was the fall of mankind. Like, it shows the wisdom and the beauty of this entire story. That the Father knew what and how mankind would be weak, what we crave as beings, and in desiring companionship and all these things. And he wove this beautiful story of the fall and the redemption and all of it before any day was ever, like, it was all planned out and orchestrated. And there's beauty even in the fall. There's beauty even in that. So yeah, I agree with you. Um, all right. I really feel like we're going to be able to get through the end of this chapter. I feel like we're going to be able to do it. We're going to probably go over 2 hours, but I feel like maybe between now and at least 12:30 we'll be able to get through. I think maybe that's a good goal that we'll shoot for. All right. Next one, moving on. Talking about not spoiling your daughters. So 25, give your daughter in marriage, and you shall have performed a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding. Again, this isn't because women are just objects to be bartered. It's talking about the kingdom is brought forth through women, the benefit of women in marriage and what they can do for the kingdom as a whole. You are raising up, like, if you have done your job and you have taught her the value in her role as a woman and as a wife and what, like, her role is in the kingdom, you have really raised up a Proverbs 31 woman. To give your daughter in marriage is a weighty matter for the kingdom. It's beautiful. It's not talking about, like, oh, just the goal is to just give her away because she's not.
This is my board, my happy board. I need happies. I'll put a check mark on these three.
Yeah.
I'll put a check X on that,
Mhm.
on silly. And those 3 I'll put just X. If I get sad.
Oh, that's your emotional. I love that.
My
That's so
emotion
creative.
board.
Yeah. Do you want to come say hi to everyone real quick while you're here? They
Hi.
all loved your joke last week with the wing wing wing, or not last week, I guess earlier this week. All right, you want to say hi?
My emotion board.
She made this
Super happy.
tube
Just happy. Happy.
ranging from sad to like super happy, and she's gonna put checks on when she feels certain emotions.
Yeah,
So
from
she's
really
in emotional tracking and
Yeah,
emotional
from
awareness.
really
I love that for you.
really sad.
Okay. Do you want to say hi to anybody in particular?
Hi, Bobby.
Hi, Addie.
We all knew that was coming, Addie, okay? Just say hi to Bobby. That's fine.
All right. I love you so much. You're gonna sit here, you're gonna hang out up here, you're gonna go back downstairs. Because I'm not quite done with this call, but I'm getting closer.
Did you tell them that our spider came?
I didn't tell them that our spider came.
Well, our new jumping spider came last night.
Nice.
Yeah, so we set our wild caught spider free, and we have a captive bred one that's used to being in captivity, and it's a girl. We haven't named her yet, but all right. Can I finish this? We're gonna study, and I want to get through in the next 30 minutes. Okay. All right. So I need you to get off my lap, and you can hang out on the bed behind me. You can hang out on your own bed. I love you, but please, I need you to figure out something, ma'am. Please, please, please. Thank you. Okay. It's only going to be a little bit longer. You've been so patient.
I'm gonna add an X on the board.
Oh, because you're sad. Here, go ahead and put a sad X if you must.
I have a Sharpie.
Okay. She's sad now. She's going to put a little mark on her sad part of the board. All right, guys. Sorry about
that. Doesn't count. Do you want to go to the playground after?
I don't know. Honey, please, please. I love you so, so much. Give me a little bit longer, okay? Just a little bit. You're so good. You're so smart and awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. She's
If
wonderful.
you have a daughter, give her in marriage. No.
Oh, we're working. All right. She is like, if we're still all here by the time she's old enough to be married and all of that, like, she is such a wonderful, beautiful soul. She will make a lovely partner. I know that. All right. Anyway, let's see. Oh, so, but give her to a man of understanding. Give your daughters in marriage, and you shall have performed a weighty matter, because of how valuable a woman is in furthering the kingdom. She is like raising daughters, and having divine unions is just so important, but it has to put in there. But give her to a man of understanding. So this is a man that will see her worth and treat her as he should, not to treat her as an object, not to, and to respect her and to want to hear what she has to say. And like I think Jackie said it earlier, that basically like wise men understand that they ask their woman and they take in consideration the wisdom of their woman before acting, basically, that the man is the physical strength and the physical reality, but he's gonna take counsel with his woman before he acts and before he does things in the physical reality. Anybody else in that little section? Yeah, Jess.
I had myself on a screen I had never seen before. I just wanted to let y'all know that I'll be listening, but I got to take my walk right now. My legs are starting to cramp. So I hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Haley.
I was just thinking about this whole passage here. I was just talking to my friend the other day about how, like, to kind of piggyback off of some of what Tina was saying and what you were saying, Oria, we have our own trauma cycles that we have to, learn. A lot of us were never taught, like, that we have value and worth and how to respect our bodies and what all that means and everything. And it seems like, you know, to an extent that the last generation or whatever kind of dropped the ball in that area, and we have like so much trauma to come out of. But also that's why like I don't have girls, but I only have boys, but it's so important to like break those trauma cycles and to be teaching these things to our kids, like not just, you know, like what you said, Oria, not just like this is sin, like we shouldn't do it, stay away from it, but like teach them the why, like, you know, why this could cause like pain, hurt, trauma, like um, and I've always like from the when my kids were young, like every example that I could find, like even little things that we will watch on TV of like some traumatic situation would be happening or like bad relationships. I would use that as an example and see things and explain to them like this is why it's so important, like the whole courting process, like that's why it's so important to make sure that your values align, your beliefs, like your morals, principles, everything. It's so important because if not, then you're going to end up in all these different trauma cycles. So yeah, it's so important to really go in depth with your children about why and what could happen when you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, just growing up, I was just told like don't have sex until you're married. Like and like it's like that's literally it, that it's sin. And like trying to navigate that as a child, my only reason for not was simply to just try to make my parents happy. There was no other reason. And so eventually that motivation goes away in a child. Eventually they no longer care about making their parents happy. And if that's the only reason they have to not do something,
Yeah.
eventually they will inevitably do it. And if the only reason they have is to make God happy, you know, eventually they're not going to care about that. So they really need to understand the whys behind things. I can't say that I wish that I had that understanding because I'm so thankful for all of my mistakes that resulted in all of my giving of myself away, because I've learned all these things and now I have the depth and the ability to articulate the reason why. Because I don't think I would have had the ability to articulate the reason why without my mistakes. And so now Addie can benefit from my mistakes. So I'm not sad to have experienced the level of darkness that I did. But it's just kind of a part of it, is like if you don't teach them, they're gonna learn for themselves. So you can either teach them from your own mistakes, from your own experiences, or you can let them learn the hard way, and either way they're gonna learn. But like
Yeah, same.
I would prefer Addie to make different mistakes, not those types of mistakes. Like she can make her own traumas. I'm gonna try to get her away from making a bunch of sexual mistakes because yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I learn and teach. I've learned and I teach from experience. I didn't necessarily have a religious home or anything, so I didn't have like my parents were saying like this is sin, like don't do that or anything. But there was definitely a lack of any sort of teaching. So and I had an absent father, so I was always constantly seeking, you know, love or attention. And I never had any teaching or my mom like really teach me what I was looking for in a man or why that's important or like there was nothing basically. So I just kind of figured it out all on my own in the hardest ways possible. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. And like so much of like, I think as parents, we think about, or many things as parents, parents in the world think, okay, you have to teach your children responsibilities and you have to teach your children things in school and you have to teach your children all these things. But in all reality, like the greatest things that we can teach them is those inner things, those spiritual principles, the spiritual skills and emotional intelligence and regulation and how to find a partner and why and all of that. And that was so not even in the radar. Oh my goodness, knowing. I still feel like I'm learning now. I'm still learning like how to do all those things and yeah. Anyway, um all right. Anybody else before moving on? No. All right, 26. Do you have a wife in mind? Do not forsake her, and do not give yourself over to an easy woman. I basically just have don't choose what is easy or cheap. Don't rush or be ruled by the flesh either. So for somebody who like, I guess in this circumstance, like he might be promised to somebody else, and usually in biblical understanding, like there's a promising, there's an initial ceremony where there's like some sort of documentation drawn up that basically says that they're betrothed. But then there's this whole period, and it can be a year, it can be multiple years between betrothal and the actual ceremony where the wedding is consummated. And so like back then, especially like for men to be betrothed and then to wait all of these years before being able to consummate something, like it is a lot of work. It takes time. It is difficult. It requires submitting to the flesh versus going to get an easy woman, is easier, I guess. Pretty self-explanatory, I guess. Anybody else have anything else? Yeah, Tina.
Because my version is slightly different to yours, would you mind if I read it again? Because there's a little bit more detail to what you just read, and I think it does shed a bit more life on it as well.
Yeah, please.
So verse 26, do you have a wife after your mind? Do not cast her out, but do not entrust yourself to one who is hateful. And when I read that, it made me think of the proverb about where if you have a argumentative wife, it's better to live in the roof of your house, kind of thing, the corner of your house, I think in some translations, to keep away. But also if somebody's after your mind, to me, do you have a wife after your mind? It makes me think that woman has more integrity, that she's not just after somebody for their looks, she's not just after somebody for their body, she's genuinely wanting what Yah wants for them, a ministry, a connection, something that's going to progress the kingdom. But particularly when it says, do not entrust yourself to one who is hateful. And that to me is like the contrast, like you were saying earlier, between the Proverbs 31 woman and the whore of Babylon type thing in the most extreme way. Yeah, I just felt that was a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, because I like that one is looking purely or finding a wife for that physical motivation of maybe just the physical pleasures, and it's way easier versus the other of mental depth and spiritual depth and emotional depth, and in seeking the woman that is a spiritual depth rather than just, physical connection. Jackie.
A long time ago, I knew that I would rush to that decision or get distracted or something. And so I was counseled to like write out 20 desires that I have in a man. And like, if you don't meet those, don't even contact me type thing. And so it has really worked. Isolated him down really quick. Like, anyway.
That's awesome. I don't know if you guys saw earlier, but I saw you guys like looking at each other and laughing. And I was like, Jackie and Jerry are passing notes in class. I feel
Don't
like
think we don't do that. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I can tell you guys are having the most private meetings over there. I love it though. I love being able to see you guys interact and smiling at each other. It's really adorable and cute. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Anything else? Because now from 27 to 28 are kind of something else, I think. Who's next? I read, right? So me, Bobby, I think you're next. Would you read 27 to 28, 27 and 28?
Search and seek.
Esteem your father with your whole heart, and do not forget the sorrows of your mother. Remember that you were brought forth by them, and how would you repay them what they have done for you? So,
Thank you. Does anybody have anything there? This is something actually that like I really felt the Father speaking to me on this week from a biological standpoint. So like seeing my daughter as she gets older, like she hasn't been anywhere around her biological father since like before she was 2 years old. And I don't know, like we talked briefly, like we mentioned in the past, like noticing parts of, our previous partners and our children. And so as I've like seen certain like mannerisms, not even just like biological, like, oh, she has her dad's hands, or, but like mannerisms, things that like almost seem like, how are they genetic? They seem personality based.
Mhm.
And so the Father was really kind of teaching me that like who we are in this biological vessel isn't just some random biological assignment, and then our soul comes in and has to like fit into this body, but it's all pre-programmed. Our vessel and our genetics are like the pre-programming to be the exact vessel to fit our soul like a glove. And so the genetics of our mom and our dad are literally required to create the vessel that is destined to house our soul. And um, so it's like we cannot, no matter how flawed our parents are, or like no matter how flawed I think Addie's dad was, and all the characteristics about his nature that I do not want to see in Addie, who he was, 50% of his nature is in my daughter. 50% of his genetic history is in my daughter. 50% of his soul went into making my child. And so, like, I can choose to try to look at those things and be uncomfortable with them or whatever. Um, but no matter what about that nature that I don't like, it has still gone into forming parts of who she is and why she thinks the way she does and why she sees the world the way she does. And how her, I mean, literally, like her eyes and ears and all her physical senses are partially to do with what her father was. And so I have to rejoice and be grateful for that part every much as like, and so I guess coming back to our own parents, um, when we esteem our father with our whole heart, this is partially because like, our fathers, the men, they need respect. They want to feel like they have value and importance and then they're needed. And so when we esteem our father, it's showing him respect for just the portion of who he is and how it's impacted our lives. But then the other part of that, of do not forget the sorrows of your mother. This is like your mother doesn't need respect the same way your father does, but this is sort of like be sensitive towards her, be gentle towards her, have grace for her emotions and stuff like that. So that's kind of a lot of thoughts, but just 50% of your own nature, your traumas, your love, what goes into forging who you are your roots, right? We've been talking about roots, we've been talking about feet. Your feet and your roots come from your parents. And so if you're cursing your roots, you are cursing the whole tree of what you are. You have to respect and honor where you came from, that what is in your genetics, what makes up your genetics, because it literally is part of who you are. That's my set. That's my, yeah. So Haley, what's up?
I was just gonna say, like, how much more deeper and how much more beautiful this verse is when we apply it like spiritually to our spiritual mother and father, Father Yahuwah and the Ruach HaKodesh as our mother type figure. How much more deeper and beautiful this is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Good. So good. Because again, my brain didn't even go there. But yeah, absolutely. Just meditating on that, the father and the mother. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Esteem him. But then the sorrows of Lady Wisdom, like her wisdom and the thing. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Haley. That's a treasure. Jer, yeah.
Well, what came to mind is, uh, unless I misconstrued an understanding, and you can clarify that, is you believe that we came here from the heavenlies to live this life here on earth and learn. Is that a correct perception?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what essence is that? Is that a soul? or that comes down and indwells a body of flesh? Is that, I just want to try to correctly understand what was being suggested. Is that
Yeah. So
okay?
Hebrew
Then,
4, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
well, because I'm wondering then if each of us is an amalgamation of our parents that creates a unique, separate, never before existing composition of a soul, how can that have pre-existed in order to come down and embody a suit of flesh?
So this talks about, so in Hebrews 4:12, we see, at least to some extent, there's some sort of difference between soul and spirit because the word is living and active and has the ability to pierce between the difference, the
Mhm.
division between soul and spirit. So to a certain extent, as far as like the depths of all of this, I'm not even gonna claim that I can fathom it all. I think this is one of those things that like is beyond human comprehension at these lower dimensions. However, my understanding of energy and vibration and frequency and all of that is that the spark of life that makes us when we enter this realm, that power is part of the Father and it is all existent and all of that. I think the spirit is absolutely eternal and it comes from the Father. I think it's why I think that that energy stays with the Father until it comes down into earth. And I think that that is pre-existent. I think that there is an element of that that is pre-existent. I think that there's an element of the soul and the combination of one or the other. It's either the soul is created in the heavens and comes down, and the spirit is kind of what comes in afterwards. How exactly, I'm not exactly sure that I don't know if I'm explaining this right. How exactly it all works, but there's some sort of difference between soul and spirit. There's some sort of element of when we come into this realm, our soul is sort of being crafted and formed and whatever. And then our spirit is almost what gives us the eternal life aspect of it, if that makes sense. Like the spirit is the eternal part, and the soul or the being um, is split off at the time of conception. I don't know. I don't really know. I just know that there's a difference. I know that there's some part of us that is eternal, some part of us that comes from the Father, remains connected to the Father. That's the part of us that gives us unity to each other, that we're all a part of the same body, that we're not fully separate from each other. Um, but then there's another aspect of our nature that is completely unique to ourselves and comes from our parents and comes from all of that. So exactly how, I'm not exactly sure yet. I think that's something that the Father is going to fully continue to bring clarity and bring understanding, but there's definitely a division. There's definitely a difference. But that's where I'm at. I don't, probably doesn't help a whole lot, but that's just where
So
I'm
I've
at right
never considered the soul and the spirit to be the same thing.
now.
I
Yeah.
believe the soul is kind of like your blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
and the spirit is the power, the energy of the Father that gives life to everything, and it
Mm-hmm.
is common amongst all that live.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it says when you die, the spirit returns to the Father from whence it came, so you are de-energized. But your soul, whatever's been written about you in your life, the amalgamation of your history and everything, that is your unique story. But I just won't, I've never conceived of it as being pre-existent prior to conception, like not the soul ever. Like I don't know where that comes from that I've been kind of picking up here. I've never seen that, and if it's true, I'd like to know where's that come from because I have never perceived that to be a reality that we have a pre-existent soul that goes here and comes down and chooses to experience this in order to learn what this soul needs to learn. I've heard New Age stuff talking about that a lot because we just have to remember and all this stuff. Well, in order to remember, you have to have a mind, and that's the part of the soul. So it means you're pre-existing as a conscious entity before you come down here and wear this flesh suit. That doesn't, that's, I mean, I'm just going, oh, that's interesting, but I don't know that to be true whatsoever at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all. So,
Yeah.
and I believe we just die once, and then then there's judgment and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to know, because you talked
Yeah.
about, Addie being an amalgamation and a unique creation because of this. Well, if she's a unique creation, then she did not pre-exist, the soul, who she is. Okay, she just came into existence at conception. At that time, I don't see why there's a need for a soul to pre-exist in the heavenlies and then come down here and experience this and learn something. I don't know where that comes from, and if it's existing, I'm not aware of it. That's all I'm saying.
I think the understanding that energy cannot be created or destroyed is one reason why I have that perception. There are apocryphal texts that talk about um, all of the eternal soul, all the eternal beings that were created to ever exist ever. Like basically, it's eternal, it's outside space and time. Everything that exists outside space and time was created before physical reality ever came to be. Um, and so with that understanding, like it's one of those things that like I don't have the ability to perceive all of it, but to some extent, the energy that makes us cannot be created or destroyed. It's not new. It's nothing new. And I do think there's a certain element of, yes, there's this what New Age has taken and stolen and twisted. But Messiah talks about how we are all coming from the Father and we are all learning how to come back into relationship with the Father. And um, there are apocryphal texts that do talk about the angels carrying the soul of the human into the womb. And so I think what we have available in scripture is not enough to say that we can peer into the heavenly realms and see exactly how it works. I do know that in the writings of Abraham and I forget what other text, people are shown spiritually the miracle of conception and how that works in the spiritual realm, and how divine conception works when it's not involving one man and one woman, and how like Abraham and Sarai were biologically not capable of having children, and Abraham was shown the miracles of conception of how this spiritual being would be entering the womb. The same thing with Messiah. Like if he was truly not born of two humans coming together, then it was spiritual conception of this ever-present spirit that was existent coming into the realm, the firstborn of creation. So if he was outside space and time and then came into a body, one could assume like every day that we would ever live was written in the heavens before we ever, ever lived out any of them. So there's a certain part of our nature and who we are and our personality and our experience that was existing in the heavens before we ever took a body, before we ever came in. And it's this combination, I think, of the new creation that comes together. But I also think it's something that like when the Most High spoke forth creation, it's all just sort of been playing out. And so when he spoke, let there be light, in his wisdom, he was already speaking my body into existence because he knew that my mother and father would come together the way they did, create the body for me when it needed to happen because it was destined to be matched to my spirit, to match to my soul, whatever that capacity is. But I do absolutely believe that we are eternal beings. We are our soul, our spirit, whatever it is. We are able to access outside space and time because we were made for outside space and time, that we didn't originate. We're not originating from this plane of existence. We are originating from the heavens. That's my conviction. Not saying that you have to have that conviction, but that's just my personal conviction.
No, I just
Yeah.
probably don't see the foreknowledge of Yahuwah requiring that, just because he knows everything. Because when he spoke it into being, it's like throwing out a bunch of dominoes and everything's going to fall together. And he knows that. And I also don't believe that, like you say, energy can't be created or destroyed. I mean, that's a physics thing. I don't believe in creation. Like the Father's not bound by physical. He created ex nihilo out of nothing. So he didn't use energy to create it. He created energy. So energy can be created because he created it. Otherwise, energy is God. It's all powerful. And I don't believe that. I believe that he is separate from energy. He uses energy, he displays energy, he created energy just by speaking and movement and motion and frequency. But
Uh,
it had to be created. It didn't exist before that. So I don't believe that energy cannot be created or destroyed. I think that's just a nice thing to say, but
He is
how do you
love,
prove that? But I
and
mean, I'm
love
just
is an energy, and love is source, and he is energy. So he, like, everything came from him, everything came from energy because he's love and light, and that's an energy.
well, that's I mean, it's just terminology, and I mean, it's just semantics that they calling it energy. Like I get it, I get it. I just was curious about the pre-existence of the soul. That I'm not for or against it. I'm just not convinced it happened. Like, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
And we
just
can be at different places too. Like that's okay.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm open.
Jerry.
Okay.
Sorry, my boots aren't tall enough to go in that depth, so I'm taking it back a little bit. And just my squirrel brain thinks that this format from Zoom call came from the Brady Bunch. Just saying. Anyways, going back to what you were saying about like Addie's father, because Jackie and myself both have kids from previous relationships. But any of us that come from that situation know that if the situation was the other way and you and her father were happy together, you would love those attributes that she got from him. But as we all know, when it's not that case, it's like, well, yeah, we just, because Jackie sees my kid's mom and her, and I see, his dad and him. And it's just like, but if it was like it was supposed to be, those would be good things, not negative things. So we just got to know that we didn't just happen upon some being and procreate. You know, we found something about them attractive and wanted to, be with those other people. So there was something there to start with that just fell apart. So, we still have to realize that we did appreciate something about the other parent that we just have to get past the negative sides of it, I guess. So,
Yeah. I think a lot of times it's our own discomfort of like the failure, our discomfort of, things that make us uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, like I'm definitely learning to see those things sober-mindedly, that there are certain things that she might struggle with. There's certain things that are gonna, and it's all the father's wisdom. He knew who her dad would be before that ever happened, and it's all for a reason. And um, there are certain aspects um, of it that like the only discomfort is because of things within me, not anything to do with that, she's actually flawed in any way at all because of who her dad was. Like they're all strengths, they're all for her good and for the father's glory. Um, all right, we are not going to get through all of it in 2.5 hours, but we're close. The last, so like 29 through pretty much, I don't know. Okay, so 29 through 31 is a section, and then 32 through the end is another section. So who read the last one? Bobby did. So Haley, would you read 29 through 31 for us, please? Oh, wait, Jerry, did you have your hand up? Jerry, you have your hand up again? No? Okay. All right, Haley, 29 through 31, if you would for us, please.
Fear Yahuwah with all your soul, and reverence his priests. Love him that made you with all your strength, and forsake not his ministers. Fear Yahuwah and mm, Fear Yahuwah and honor the priest, and give him his portion, as it is commanded you, the first fruits, and the trespass offering, and the gift of the shoulder, and the sacrifice of sanctification, and the first fruits of the holy things.
Thank you. Does anybody have any notes or anything on this one?
Nope. Done.
I do have notes.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at verse 31, and really I was just sitting with it for a minute, trying to like really just discern what this was. And so the first thing that I did was just kind of write down what some of these things meant literally. At first fruits, which we all kind of have a good understanding of that one, giving the first part of us, or in the physical, the first part of the grain or whatever. But a trespass offering, it was an offering for unintentional sin. The gift of shoulders, it was a portion that was given to the Levites, because they didn't have land to farm or anything. The sacrifice of sanctification, it was for setting someone or something apart, like for service in the temple or what have you. First fruits of the holy things. Basically, the key meaning from what I was gathering was that the first sanctifies the rest. I'll roll back a little bit. So I was thinking about like spiritually, what could this like mean? And what I got from it was like the first fruits is like giving or pouring into the mishpachah, trespass offering, like really stepping in and praying and interceding for one another, for like, if we want to say unintentional sin or whatever the case. Um, the gift of shoulders, it could be like bearing one another's burdens. And then the sacrifice of sanctification. Actually, I didn't write a note on that one. I didn't write a note for spiritually on that one. Um, setting apart maybe ourselves for service. I don't know. Um, but the first fruits of holy things, like who is our first fruits? That's the Messiah, the high priest, our high priest, like it mentions in that verse 31. Our high priest is the Messiah who sanctifies the rest, which is us. So that's just kind of some things I was thinking through as I was reflecting on that verse.
I love that. I love that. Something you said inspired me to write more things down. Does anybody else have anything else before I start rambling? Because once I get going, I just go. No. All right. So, so your thing, the first sanctifies the rest is like, I mean, let's go to Pesach. Let's go to the firstborn. Let's go to the covering of the lamb. Let's go to how the Levites were taken as the inheritance of the father instead of the firstborn, right? It was supposed to be the firstborn, but the firstborn is now, that's when they offer their sacrifice to redeem the firstborn because he's taken the Levites instead to be his inheritance. And this is also why the Levites didn't get any inheritance in the physical reality. They didn't get any land. They didn't get all of this stuff to themselves because the father was their inheritance. And that firstborn was taken apart because guess what? They sanctify the rest of the city, just like the lamb in Exodus sanctified and covered the rest, just like Messiah sanctifies and covers the rest. The firstborn, the first fruits, that's what the Levites were. And so when we are talking about the Levites and the priests, their job, all of these offerings, they were to go and they were to be that middle point between the rest of the people and the wholly destructive power of both the justice and the mercy of the Father. But basically, the Levites or the firstborn is that doorway, that middle ground. And so in the Old Testament, the Levites were the ones to offer the sin offerings and those types of things to cover the sins of the people. They were also the ones that walked into the presence. They were the ones that went in and they had the Urim and the Thummim. So they were the ones to seek the Father, to hear the voice of the Father, hear the ways of the Father, and all these types of things. And so the priests also, in addition to be able to do this, it required a more righteous lifestyle by the priests. They were held to a higher standard. They risked their lives by entering into the throne or like the presence of the Father. If they weren't perfect, they would die in the presence. And so they risked their lives. They were the ones that were entering into that dangerous place to seek the covering and the redemption of the whole people. And so tithing, of giving the first fruits to the priests of the flour and the meats and all of these things, is kind of multifaceted, because they didn't have their own inheritance, but it was also as a way of passing on that covering energy of, you're giving somebody something so that they can cover you and so that they can perform their duties. And so I guess understanding this, like my understanding of this application, and like how and this is like difficult for me, like being in ministry. I'm not trying to tell you guys that you have to tithe, because that's just, it is. But when I was last involved in a ministry, and I mean, as far as like being in a position where somebody else was going into the secret spaces and coming and teaching and lots of different things, like this ministry or ministries is now serving as that sort of role. And so I kind of interpret this today as like those who, um, you know, have their lives. This is so hard. Those who take the time to seek the Father and enter into the sacred place and go and get that energy to sacrifice so much of themselves or so much of this physical reality that they have access to these secret places, and then they're bringing that energy to the Father or to the people, just like Moshe climbing up the mountain. He turned back down and brought a glorious like light to the people. And so part of this role is basically, yes, it's sanctification, but in a certain sense, it's like entering into the throne room, entering into that presence. If people aren't able to access it themselves, and then bringing that light out into the world and into where it's a little bit more accessible. That's how I interpreted this section. And basically, like, it goes to say like the same thing today, when everybody else working and striving, and they have an inheritance in the world, they have a job, they have a way to make money, they have all these things, whereas people who are in ministry and people who do that as their work, they're not working, they're not striving and working in this world, so they don't have the same inheritance. That is my thought of like, what does Paul say? The worker is worth their wages, basically, of just even provision of like their needs being met. And when the apostles went out and about, they didn't accept money, but just that their needs were cared for, and they didn't have to worry about their food and their shelter and that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm done rambling about that. Anybody else have any thoughts between 29 and 31? Anything else? No. Okay. So the last little bit, we're almost done, guys. We're getting there. Who's next? Jackie? Jackie, are you the next person to read? Did I just have you read, or Jackie's the next person? Yes. So 32 through 36, if you would read for us, Jackie, we'll finish up with those verses.
Okay, you said verse 32 through 36? 30.
Yeah, so basically 32 through the
32.
end. Yeah.
32
Yeah.
through the end. And stretch out your hand to the poor, that your barakah may be perfected. A gift has favor in the sight of every living man, and do not hold back for the dead. Do not fail to accompany those who weep, and mourn with those who mourn. Do not be slow to visit the sick, for that shall cause you to be loved. Whatever you take in hand, remember the end, and you shall never do wrong.
Anybody have anything about that? I didn't have a whole lot. I have a little bit. I just basically wrote, this is basically talking about compassion and mercy, representing that nature of the Father, and how when you operate in compassion and mercy and grace, you cultivate closeness and intimacy and love and mercy. And so it's not like, so for verse 35, do not be slow to visit the sick, for that shall cause you to be loved. It's not saying go and do these things so people like you, because that's why some people do things and that's not the right reason. But it is being compassionate and merciful and genuinely caring about what other peoples are going through and bearing one another's burdens and weeping with those who weep is joining yourself to them in the spirit and bringing yourself into unity, that their sorrows are your sorrows and your victories are their victories are your victories. And so it's like, if you join yourself to others, like it's creating this, we're all connected. I am yours, you are mine. We are all in this together. And so that's what it's talking about. You shall be loved. And when you fall and when you are in weakness, you will have others there, the body supporting you, the immune system then of the entire body supporting you and helping you get well, based on compassion and mercy, mutual love and unconditional giving of yourself. Yeah, that was what I think all of those verses are about. But does anybody have anything specific about any of those specific verses? No. Does anybody have any thoughts about all of chapter 7? Even now that we're done, we got to chapter 7. Hallelujah, praise Yah, we did it. And yeah, gosh, guys, where are you? Ecclesiasticus is long. Sirach is long. It's going to take us a while to get through this. Yeah, Tina.
Well, my main sort of impression of particularly the parts we've read this week is how much it reflects Proverbs, how much Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus mirror each other in this particular chapter. I know we've seen it before as well in other chapters, but particularly towards the end. And the other thing was physically, I don't remember reading about a gift of shoulders. So that's a question I have. Where in scripture does it say a gift of shoulders? Because I don't remember that. I do get where Haley's coming from spiritually, lifting each other's burdens and, being maybe a shoulder to lean on, but I don't get the physical. I don't know what the physical bit is.
So I was actually just going to respond to that. I understood it more as like that's the shoulder is the part of the meat that is a prized part of the meat. And so that's like the best part of the meat.
Yeah, thank you for that. Was it the shoulders? Was that the wave offering? I think the shoulder was the wave offering. I think, but I could be wrong. It was, yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's the wave offering. Which is again like that praising the Father, giving it to him, and yeah, surrender. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it because I didn't want to work through some of these things because some of them were hard at a surface level of like, give away your daughter and you have done a good thing. And like, don't be generous towards her. And I don't know, even talking about leadership and ministry and a woman and all of these things. It's like, oh, it makes me like cringy on the inside to like try to talk about those things. But I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did. It was very fruitful, and I'm glad that we get to discuss these things and that it's just an exercise in trust and studying, and that the Father, that there's nothing there without without purpose. And oftentimes we get a lot of work and internal teaching from the things that make us uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I got a lot out of this, and so I'm thankful. Anybody else, any thoughts? I guess I can try again that quiet thing because it's a really good song, and I'm thinking maybe I can try again. I think I got the key too low. I think if I pull it up, like I hate moving the capo all the way up the neck of the guitar, but I feel like I'm just gonna have to get it on like the 6th fret or something. But if we want, we could do some worship and then I can pray us out. All right, we'll do that. I'm hoping I can get this song because I mean I do know right off the bat that there's going to be some parts of it where the range is just a bit high, and I'm just willing to accept that it's going to be a challenge for me. So 6th thing, man, I wish I wrote down what key I have this in. in my mind. All right, I'm gonna go with this key, guys. Again, this is called Quiet, and I think this is something that we are all working through right now. Oh, I need to change my sound. That's what I need to do. All right, hold on, guys. Oh, guys, we're already going so late, but thank you for waiting. I'm realizing I should have just ended. I should have just ended it. We're going already. But you guys already agreed to listen to me do this song, so I'm just going to do it now. You guys can't get out of it. All right. Here we go again. My mind's racing, and I can't seem to win. All these crazy thoughts and feelings, it's like it never ends until your voice breaks through my noise, and I know I'm not alone, not alone. You will fight my battles if I will just be still. Why would I keep running when you're right here? I'll just be quiet, let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. I don't need to know what comes next. Tomorrow's in your hands. I can trust you with my future, 'cause you're already there. I hear your voice call me forward, and I know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Away without distractions, I wanna hear what's true. The only words that matter, they come from you. I'll just be quiet. Let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. I'll just be quiet, let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. Quiet. Yeah, you're here in the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. That was it, guys. That was pretty much it. I did it better that time. That was so much better. It was so much better. I mean, it was slow. Like, I had to think through it. But guys, I did it. Oh my goodness, the difference between like when it's right, when it's not. So yeah. All right. I'm glad I got to do that song. That's been something that's been on my heart. Let me change my sound. Justin, what he's doing. in the secret place of like when I really make sure that I bring my time and attention to him and stop thinking about what's going on in my external reality and all the things that I wish that I could fix and all the answers that I wish that I had in the physical reality and all the direction that I wish that I had in the physical reality. How fruitful it is every time when I just sit in the quiet, in the silence, and let him do what he wants to do. So I'll just be quiet, Father, because I'm not really good at that, actually, just being quiet, at least on our calls. So I'll be quiet when I'm with the Father. And I can blab with you guys, I guess. Because I can't help it. Anyway, I love you guys. I will pray us out. And then we will end I guess we can say goodbye and, whatever, and then we'll end the call. All right. Father, thank you so much for this time. And honestly, even this extended time that we had together, Father. You just made this way for us to come together across space and time, and fellowship with one another, and that we are of one mind and one accord. And even though we are not in the same place physically together, we are in the same place spiritually. And you are here with us, teaching us and guiding us and showing us who you are, and how to be more like you, and just what an honor and a privilege it is to be having access to these heavenly things, these heavenly treasures. Thank you for your word. Thank you for this text. Thank you for your wisdom that you pour out to us continually. Thank you for the refinement, for bringing us into greater and greater depths of you and perceptions of who you are, that we can read these texts, and just get more from you each time and each perspective, and through each each perspective that we share, Father, we each see you differently. We get a slightly different glimpse of you, Father. So when we come together, we get to share you. And I just so thank you for that, because what a pleasure and honor and privilege it is that we have access to that. So I would just like to cover us. I would like to speak your blessing and your favor, Father, for we spoke about favor, for your authority and your power and everything that you have to offer us in this reality, Father. We seek you for your favor for this week, Father, for the rest of this weekend as we go about our lives. Just give us your favor as your children, that as we continue to seek you and refine ourselves to be greater vessels for your light, that you are faithful to pour your light upon us, to be found and to affect the world around us. Give us greater opportunity to be a light to the world, a city on the hill. Show us still the parts of ourselves that need to be refined. Continue to do a good work in us. We just thank you. We praise you for all of these things and all that you're going to do in this coming season. Let us be dwelling in this period of praise and joy and returning to the joy of salvation, and gratitude for who you are and what you've done and what you're going to continue to do. And we bring all these things before you with humility and praise and fear of who you are. In the name of your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen. All right, again.
Amen.
Love you all. Thank you for hanging out with me for almost 3 hours. Some of y'all were here for 3 hours at this point. For anyone who was here for those few minutes where I was trying to sing, I just couldn't figure it out. It just wasn't meant to happen. But thank you for being here for 3 hours. It doesn't seem like that. Time just flies because we are fellowshipping in the spirit and we are outside space and time. So it feels like it goes by so fast. But I will see you.
I've had that song. I've
Huh?
had a song stuck in my head for days. It's trending on TikTok. It's like, let the church say amen, amen. That's been replaying in my head like over and over and over for days.
That's so
Irrelevant,
funny.
but
Tina, did you wave your hand? You wanted to say something.
I was just saying
Oh.
goodbye.
Oh, just saying bye. Okay, all right. Bye, everyone. Love you. Shalom, shalom.
I love you.
Shalom, shalom. Love you all.
Shalom.